Good evening, Lisa, Kathy, and anybody else who's out there. Good evening. Good evening. Hey, Rose. Debbie from Florida. Hi. Hey, it's Friday night, 6:01. It's February 19th. We're getting revved up for the weekend. A little war dance, rain dance, whatever you thought to do, you know. If you dance to the music, don't you know you got to pay to the piper? I can't sing. I don't care. You know that song, Pay to the Piper? If you dance to the music, don't you know you got to pay to the piper? Hi, Ann. I hope you're having okay weather in Massachusetts. Massachusetts. Hey, ask me how's Ted Cancun. Well, I'm sure he's fine. Ah, that's his new name. Not Ted Cruz, Ted Cancun. That's what we're going to call him right up to Election Day. All right, welcome everybody. It is February 19th, 2021. It is 6:02 p.m. And I have what I think were some snowing nonstop since last night. Wow, how many inches? Because that's not cool up north. I mean, you're used to it, but it's not cool. I would be a great DJ. Well, thank you. Thank you. Socking it to you, hit after hit after hit, baby. In the groove, bound to move, uptight, out of sight. I got a bevy of beautiful bass. I got an international ray of stars. I got music to shake you, but don't break you. All right. Anyways, I know. That's the inner DJ in me just burst out. Eh, It wasn't, I wasn't, it's not where I was. Blame Kathy. Okay, blame Kathy. Wasn't I wasn't going there. Yeah, you have snow removal equipment, and we don't. We don't even have electrical grid. Apparently, the guy who was in charge of the electrical system here, the power system here, was on the television this morning being interviewed, and they were asking him, what happened, and he said, well, thanks to the brilliance of the people managing the system, we avoided a shutdown of the entire grid of Texas. And it was like he was looking for a pat on the back, right? Like, if it could have been seconds or minutes away for no power for months. And the person interviewing was kind of like, but is, shouldn't you not have been there? I mean, shouldn't you not have been seconds or minutes away from catastrophic failure? And he said, well, kind of like acting like, well, it's just the way it is. And then the interviewer said, well, why aren't you part of the national network so you could have drawn energy that you may have needed from other states? And he said, well, adjoining states had a deep freeze going on too. They were in trouble. And the reporter said, that's not the point. The point is, if you were part of a national grid, additional energy resources could have been channeled to you, but you're not part of it. We don't have an explanation for our situation. We're just Texas. We're Ted Cancun. We're Greg Abbott, the governor in a wheelchair. Listen, if Trump can make fun of a guy who's got, I don't know what it is, whatever the disability, if he can go, I can certainly make fun of a governor in a wheelchair. If Trump can make fun of a reporter who has no power and no authority over anybody, can be made fun of at a rally in front of thousands of people, I can certainly make fun of Greg Abbott and his wheelchair, and hope that maybe he should fall out. Being part of the national grid would be socialistic. I don't even think that's so much the issue. I'm not sure, but Ann's pointing out that everything on the right seems to be, is it socialistic, is it communistic, but there's one more. Is it federalist? Is it federalistic? In other words, Do we have to incorporate federal regulations in order to be accommodated? Hell no, we're Texas, man. We're the Lone Star State. So what people are objecting to, Ann, is that somehow if we had submitted, like kowtowed, kissed the ground for national energy, we would have had to succumb to the energy regulations promulgated by the federal government. I don't know what those regulations are. I ain't gonna lie to you. They may be onerous. I don't know. But a friend of mine injected that into my conversation on Facebook. And I'm like, well, what is it which regulations are you aware of that you're objecting to? Now, in fairness to her, I sort of knew she didn't know any regulations. I knew she was just sort of touting the line. But the fact is, she believes it. There's a lot of people that believe. Now, here's my belief. I'm not in favor of big government, but I believe that federal government absolutely has the following place, bar none. When it comes to issues which will cross state lines, then absolutely things like air. See, if you don't control the air in Texas, but you control Louisiana, what freaking good does it do Louisianans when Texas sends its foul air out into the environment? Water. If you're polluting the water up in Colorado and it's flowing down to Texas and we're getting polluted water, then that's a national problem, and on and on and on, right? So in particular, pollution and anything related to pollution, interstate commerce. Now, this has been resolved for well over 40 years that if it falls in interstate commerce, then the federal government has the right to regulate it. This was established by the Supreme Court of the United States many years ago. So, it seems to be that we have a notion which is not based upon knowledge and experience. It's based upon ignorance and fear. And the same people that are spouting this bullshit are the same people that want you to enjoy guns without the prerequisites. And here's the prerequisites. So everybody should be able to have a gun. Should everybody be trained before they have a gun? No, that's an infringement. I should be able to own a gun. But privately, they will all tell you, you should be trained. You should know what you're doing. You should know something about guns. But they will sell you a freaking gun in 10 seconds if you got the money, right? There's no gun shop that gives you a test, nor am I suggesting you have to take a test to buy a gun. What I'm saying is that if anybody suggests that the freedom of firearms may not be so unencumbered, they'll freak out, right? Well, then when it comes and this is from a lack of so they have the knowledge and the experience and still have difficulty overlaying it on the issue of guns. Here, they don't have the knowledge or experience. When I taught firearms, here's the issue. People who came to me for training typically had operated from fear and ignorance about firearms and had made a decision, primarily women, to acquaint themselves, to gather the knowledge and the experience so they can make a good decision or a reasonable, knowledgeable decision going forward. People today just want to pick up banners that are laying on the ground with, it could have a Nazi emblem on it, a Proud Boys emblem, could have QAnon, doesn't matter. They're going to pick up this banner because without any education experience, they just are going to wave the flag of fear and ignorance and harm us in the process. So Rick Perry, a former governor, can actually take to the airwaves and say that Texans, as if I'm not one, would rather freeze than be subjected to federal regulation. Apparently, he's right because we elected Greg Abbott and Greg Abbott agrees with him. But then there's all these Texans that are like, Yeah, no, I think I'd rather be warm and throw in a couple of regulations. I don't know what it means. And I haven't found any of them that know what it means. They just heard federal regulations as if it is socialism, right? 89 degrees in Florida at noon, 3 p.m. it's 57. Is that what you're saying? The temperature dropped 30 degrees, Debbie? My inner DJ did come out, didn't it? You know, Lisa says great DJ voice. So when I started at KYNG back in the day, I had this voice. Well, I didn't have it the entire time, but when I took a full-time job, at the same time as they were hiring me full-time, I was in voice therapy trying to fix my voice because my voice is damaged. And the program director at the station, when we were talking about it, said, if you fix your voice, I might have to fire you because your voice is distinctive. Hi, Chris and Becky. I would like to put a broomstick in Avid's spokes and send them flying. Lisa. All right, so back to where I was going to start 20 minutes ago, 12 minutes ago. Listen, don't you love the sound of things that work harmonically with the environment? The Native American flute, the Native American drum, Tibetan flutes, East Indian drums, Peruvian flutes, didgeridoos. These are all manifestations of indigenous occupiers of various continents. And they seem to operate at a vibrational level that even if you don't like the instrument or you don't like the culture, you are going to be affected by it because it's vibrational. Your body responds to it, not your mind. Your mind may follow your body, but I can assure you things like crystal bowls or metal singing bowls, didgeridoo, if you listen to them in a room with them, not a recording of them, you will find your body physically reacts to these harmonic levels. I believe they are earth harmonies. I believe that they originated from the environment and that they will always stimulate the environment of a human being when in close proximity. All right. It's not where I wanted to go either. I don't know why I picked up the drum just now. What I wanted to tell you is that I decided today that since I've been doing a little music plug each night, 2, 3 links, I said, you know what I haven't even touched is I haven't touched classical music. And yet it's beautiful. And again, it resonates in a whole nother way, in a whole nother realm. But yet we react very viscerally to a lot of classical music. So one of my favorites is Adagio by Albinoni. And I think it was in one of those war movies, Platoon. I think it played in Platoon, but I was keenly aware of it before that. It's really melancholy, but it's such an effect. I don't think you can hear it and not know there's a mood and know that mood. Pachelbel canon. It's the only thing Pachelbel is known for having written was this canon, and it's fabulous. I've heard it. I don't know how many variations of it, who has performed it, but I urge you to click the links at the end of this and listen to both of them. And then there's an hour-long video that I posted. It's called 10 Pieces by Ludovico Einaudi, and it's piano, just piano, and it's just brilliant and soothing. And I played something by Ludovico. I attached it to a post I made yesterday in an homage to my mother, where I talked about this relationship exchange that she and I had in the last couple of years. And I attached a piece by Ludovico at the end. But this is a more expanded effort by Ludovico, and it's called 10 Pieces. And it's really, I don't think if you're in a quiet room and you stop and you start listening to it, that you will not immediately say, "Oh, wow, yeah, yeah, let me listen to that." There's a line I forgot who to attribute it to, but music soothes the savage beast, right? And it's certainly actually, I'm saying it wrong. When I looked it up, that's what I thought. Music has charms to soothe the savage breast. But all of it is true. There's also the line, music soothes the soul. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We've already demonstrated in this community through this connection that music um, tickles the fancy. Music stimulates conversation, it stimulates spirit, it stimulates mental and psychological. So all I'm really putting out there is that um, there may be some music. I mean, I can't listen to heavy metal. It's too grating for me. So I know other people that just love it. Most music has uh, struck somebody somewhere. Now, here's the thing I've thought about many times is how much new music can you produce? We know that there are like so many notes. It's almost like letters of the alphabet, right? How many words can you make with 26 letters? How many books can you create from 26 letters? How many songs, different songs, can you create from sheet music? It's amazing, right? It's phenomenal. I mean, you could fill buildings with sheet music, all different in so many ways from all the other sheet music in the building. It's incredible the creativity. And then when you think about it, when somebody sits down to create the music, is indeed they're trying not to replicate, they're trying to create. And the avoidance of replication is important because you ain't going nowhere if somebody says, "Excuse me, I already did that." By the way, one of the pieces I posted, I think it's Adagio by Tomaso Albinoni. I think that was done on what's called period pieces. And the instruments are instruments that were used at in the century that this piece was created. They're not playing on what would be a modern instrument, right? They're playing in some regards almost ancient instruments. So check it out, man. You'll see in the video. Music is a healer. It is part of our culture. Thank you. And it is all beautiful pieces. Jones says, music stimulates more feelings for me than I've ever felt in church or anywhere else. So powerful. I agree. Hi, Jenny. Welcome. So the piece that I posted, it's a departure from what I've been putting out there, which was old rock and roll, old pop music, to transition to classical music. And you know what? We being whoever's interested, we could we could do this every day for the rest of our lives. The 10, 20, 30, 40 people that pay attention to my podcast could gather every day for 45 minutes or an hour if they wanted and listen to another piece of music. Forget another piece of classical music. And we would all die long before we had exhausted the possibilities. Now, if you start thinking about the realm of music that appeals to you, uh, because all of you tend to enjoy more than one genre of music, right? Very few people only listen to classical. There are some eggheads. And very few only listen to rock or salsa or rap or whatever it is, right? So that we are infused with this affection for various forms of music and the instruments that create it. Here's something else I think about a lot. When you listen to a symphony, well, first start with a rock band, right? You got drums, you got lead guitar, you got bass guitar, maybe you got a singer, maybe you got an organ player, basic, right? And somebody wrote music for it. And so five guys, or in the White Stripes, one guy, um, but you listen to the various sounds coming out of a band, and you're like, wow, they're jamming. Hardly any of you ever went to, for instance, a rock concert and didn't get rocked. And I'm sitting there looking, I'm going, wow, that's pretty incredible that somebody, like when you listen to Elton John and Bernie Taupin talk, so Bernie would write lyrics and Elton would come up with the music itself. And I'm like, wow, what an incredible twosome, what a duo, right? Well, then you think about somebody like Beethoven or Mozart, who wrote all this classical music and had to write for I don't know how many instruments, right? The violins, the cello, the flutes, the oboe, the trumpet, those big drums, even the little bell, the little triangular thing. I'm not sure what they call it, right? I mean, there's so many instruments in a full symphony. And to think that somebody sat up there and not only wrote it, but figured out how it would all sound together before it ever really got played together. I mean, Beethoven is notorious, so to speak, because he was deaf and unable to actually hear some of his later pieces. He was writing as a deaf person. How freaking incredible is that when you think about being able to create that? It blows my mind. It's, listen, I really like the trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, right? I mean, when I look at what he's done, for instance, I'm like, wow, he creates language, he creates characters, he creates orcs and the various, he created habits, he creates these wizards and ents and ogres and trolls, and creates this world that we can read and be absorbed into, and it's completely make believe. This cat just fabricated this stuff out of his mind somewhere, and I'm sitting there going, well, I'm pretty shallow, man. I ain't never been half that. I never been a sliver of that deep. Well, the same can be said about music. If the world had been left to listen to the music that Ken Goldberg would have created, we would be in deep trouble. Because I don't have that. That's not my acumen. I I have other things, but they're not in so much in the creative realm. I'm more like an interpreter, right? Uh, Tell me what this is and what you want me of this to convey there, and I'm pretty good. I can be a bridge from facts to story. Okay, but you give me the facts. I mean, I don't create facts. I don't just create stories. I have a foundation. These cats that are making music, man, a lot of times, I don't know what the foundation is, because they produce something that it sounds like otherworldly. White Stripes, that's what I was thinking of. Jack White. Yeah, and he used to play with his sister. She played drums, he played guitar. And you'd be sitting there watching that, and you're like, two instruments, and they're banging it out. I'm sitting there, toes tapping, right? And I'm getting along with it. So I think that I don't think anybody that I know gives short shrift to music. But I think it behooves us all as part of our meditation on life to recognize such stunning um, creativity. But that's not the word. Creativity doesn't even begin it's think of all the synapses in a freaking guy's brain to write a symphony you like. There's many symphonies, many of which I could care less about. But I happen to be a big fan of Mozart, Beethoven, Bach. Oh, the Brandenburg concertos. My word, if you have never listened to the Brandenburg concertos, you must. You must. And, you know, I don't get how they did it. But my original premise is, thank you, John. My original premise is there are instruments of such deep harmonic level. They precede the symphony. They precede the origins of metallic instruments like a metallic flute or a guitar, piano, trumpet, cornet. Could be a war drum. Or perhaps it's just begging for a blessing. And then they would chant. They would chant with the drum. Guttural sounds. Sometimes the sound that came from the mouth had no real meaning. It wasn't a real word. It was a chant. It was a harmonic with the vibration of the drum. It was fusing the player with the drum so that when they opened their mouth, they didn't always have a word for what it was they were expressing. So sometimes it was just various sounds, and sometimes, in fact, was words that I don't know, I don't understand, I don't speak any Native American languages. I don't speak Cherokee or Iroquois or Navajo. Yes, music has the power to incite, absolutely. The Valkyrie, Wagner was a hero to the Third Reich, intentionally or unintentionally. Wagner's music was considered very stimulating. The triumph of will, the Third Reich, the Nazi invasion was in some measure. If you watch the landing in Apocalypse Now of what's his name, when they land on the beach in the helicopter and he gets out and he says, I love the smell of napalm in the morning, right? That the Valkyrie that they were playing as they came in to land. Dun, da, da, dun, dun, da, dun, dun, da, So you can certainly stimulate to incite. Absolutely. You can lull the savage breast and beast, and you can incite. And rap music is extraordinary in that way. Rap music tells stories that no other genre of music ever did like that. Now, I happen to be a fan of Eminem. I'm going to be a fan of Eminem. I used to have 3 or 4 of his albums. I thought he was extraordinary. I thought his contemporaries were extraordinary in their ability to tell. And if you can listen to some of that rap music and not get pissed off at the story that they're articulating, then you are deaf, perhaps dumb, perhaps blind. I don't know. So Ginny's absolutely right. So I have a multitude of percussion instruments that I enjoy. And I think I am drawn to really basic stuff. The djembe. So in Africa, one of the ways the drums were used in Africa was to get out the uh, um, the harvest. So one of the things that drums were used for in Africa was as people planted and cultivated in the fields, there were drummers using these drums. They're called talking drums, and you've seen them. They've got chords, and as you squeeze the cord, you tighten the head, and you can go boom, boom, and it's got a curved stick. You've seen it, and they would play in front of the farm worker, okay, and the sound of the drum, the beat of the drum would keep people moving, just like people who are working on a job site and got the speaker playing whatever kind of music, salsa music, pretty typical around here. So music, I know a lot of people that need music to go to sleep. They don't like silence, but they're not going to play metal music, right? They're going to play something soothing, whether it's some classical or some new age, huh? Some very soothing new age. I don't like smooth jazz. I like jazz. I don't like smooth jazz, just me. I don't like Kenny G. I don't care that we share a name. Don't dig him, man. I think he's lame. All right. So where was I? Because I digressed. I digressed a couple of times. The show was not supposed to be about music, but once I started talking about music, I guess I didn't really have anywhere else to go. So I stuck with music. Yeah, I mean, everybody here, I need music to clean my house properly. Beastie Boys is a fave. And Lisa, if you didn't see it, I posted a Beastie Boys song this evening because I was looking at music. So here's what I did. Okay, I'm gonna admit it. Hey, this is a deviation from the podcast. So I'm the admin for Buddhist Center of Dallas Meditation Group, and it's for people who meditate at the temple on Wednesday nights. And there's a lot of people in it. I don't know half of them. And I've never posted. I've posted some music, some Thai music, metta as done by this Thai person. But what I did was I was listening to Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk, and for some reason I pasted that into the group and said, "Is Bruno Mars an undercover Buddhist?" Well, he's not, but it didn't matter. I just thought I'm going to have some fun with this group tonight. So I put that in there. And then when I thought about it, I said, who was a Buddhist was Adam with the Beastie Boys. And they did a song called Bodhisattva. And so I took that and I put that in afterwards and said, and this guy was not undercover. He's just a Buddhist. So I posted some Beastie Boys tonight. And yeah, so I'm getting thirsty and I didn't bring any water. Usually I bring a water with me, right? Anyways, so music, I started to say that it has, we have coalesced here on this podcast night after night through a variety of topics. But one topic whose thread has persisted for months has been music. And as I said 10 minutes ago, we could do nothing but sit here, listen, and discuss music for the rest of our lives. And possibly, I don't know, never get bored. Never run out of something new or novel to experience or to experiment with. It would always probably be stimulating. There'd be days when some people would say, I didn't dig that music. That would be an exception, In the main, people would go either one, yes, I'm familiar with that music and I've typically enjoyed it, or, I never heard that before. Thank you for exposing me to it. Or, yeah, I don't like that. So I'm not a big country western fan. I'm just not. I do like bluegrass music, but I don't like country western very much. There's some, it's okay. Thank you, Kathy. I would go get some water, but that just means getting up and leaving the whole arena. And if I do, I don't know if I'd make it back. Maybe I'll just piece of candy. I'll put a piece of candy in my mouth while you're all right. Adam, I don't know how you pronounce his name. Lisa posts his name. He was a Buddhist and he was a Beastie Boy. He passed away. I don't know from what, maybe from drugs. So let's see, maybe sucking on something will help. So isn't that incredible when you think about it? I mean, there are book clubs, by the way. Ginny's got a great book club here in Dallas. But, broader frame, there are book clubs and they meet forever. I mean, I have friends who've been in book clubs for years, reading a book, discussing a book. I went to two Eckhart Tolle book groups, easily for at least a year, and discussing one author every week for a couple hours. Eckhart Tolle. He had a lot to say. Don't ask me. He had a lot to say. Cancer must have killed him. I assume that's why you're saying cancer, because I didn't know why else you would say cancer, Lisa. So, you see, these are different drumsticks than the ones I was using on the Indian drum, and I wouldn't use them on the djembe. So, okay, I'm calming down a little bit. I got myself a little wired talking about music. I mean, it's a stimulating topic for me. I like a lot of the very classical, right? Like the Four Seasons, the Brandenburg Concertos, Beethoven's Fifth, Beethoven's Ninth, the Pastoral Symphony. I'm not a guy who knows a lot of obscure music. I know when I lived in Oxford, England for a summer, what a magnificent experience. Let me tell you. So I go to Oxford, England as part of a program to train in law. Okay. And here's the thing. I get off the bus or the train actually, and I'm walking down the street, man, and the buildings are like from the 1200s and the 1300s, right? And I'm just like, I'm on a movie set, man. I'm at Oxford, England, man. Wow, right? And I get to my campus and I check in and they give me this room and it's kind of dark and damp. It was built, 800 years earlier. And I'm sitting there. I got a little fireplace. I'm not going to use it. It's summertime, but I've got it. And I'm thinking to myself, can you imagine that hundreds of years ago, their only source of heat was this fireplace. And you step outside and you see fireplaces everywhere, right? Because that was the heat. And I had a deer farm. Is that what they call it? Deer park outside my door. You come out of my dorm room into the quadrangle, and there was this big open meadow, and it wasn't open, it was fenced in, and there were deer there. They grazed every day. And every so often, they would move the deer from one side to another side and then pen them in that side, I guess, to let the grass or whatever replenish. And you could, now what they do there is they take a building that was built 800 years ago, and they decide it needs repair. It needs to be refurbished, or I don't know what the term is. They still have artisans, right? They still have craftsmen. So what they do is they will shut a building down and they will dismantle it block by block, and they mark where the block came from. Then they will duplicate that block with a new piece of stone, a square piece, and they will reconstruct the building so that it's newer. It's not 800 years old anymore, but it looks exactly as it looked 800 years ago. Okay, that's not what I want to tell you about. Then you walk down the street, and there's this building, and it's got like a rounded roof, and I know the name of it. I can't think of it, but and for £5, which is $7.50 at the time, you went in and you heard classical music by some great classical artists that uh, would be playing at Symphony Hall here, but they're playing in this fairly small venue, right? So I'm like, yo, I'm in, count me in, right? And so I would go there, and then one day I heard Madrigal Singers are going to be at new one of the campuses. So Oxford is not really a university in the sense that we think of a university. Oxford is 34 or 35 colleges, and the college I was at was called Magdalen, which is spelled Magdalen. Magdalen College was one of many. And so what you do is there was a campus where it was a beautiful campus. They had and they had a chapel, and the chapel had a lot of stained glass. Not all chapels had stained glass, but this one did. And they had madrigal singers, and I didn't know what a madrigal was. I never heard the word madrigal when I was 34 years old, and I was in England. But you know what? I saw a poster, and I'm like, yo. Let me check it out. I asked some of the kids in the school, and they said, "Oh yeah, yeah, Madrigal is very, very nice." And I went, and it was mind blowing, man. I mean, it was wow. If you haven't heard some great magical music, because in England, they will they will give out scholarships to choir people like we give out scholarships to football players. They value music to such an extent that it's very commonplace to be able to get through university because you have a beautiful voice. I was thrilled to be there. It's time to go. So I'm sorry I never got around to talking about Ted Cancun really. So thank you for your indulgence. Thank you for clicking on the links later and listening to the songs. I don't think anybody would be disappointed by the 3 links I posted. But then again, I'm not you. So it's Friday night. It's time to say goodbye to each other. It's time to meditate with each other for a brief moment, to share goodwill and kindness, compassion, because that's what we are. You know, we can be mean and aggressive and abusive. We all have it in us. And maybe at some time we've all been those, but those are defilements. Those are not things we aspire to. Those are things we default to. So the antidote to those types of attitudes and actions is to build up the foundation of wholesomeness, to practice goodwill to people, to all things. So I always bring my hand before my heart as if in prayer. I bow my head, I close my eyes, and I take deep breaths. And I generate loving kindness first for myself, for I cannot pour from an empty vessel. May I be happy, healthy, free from harm, free from anger, anxiety, and fear. And may this practice bring me greater peace and comfort in my life, which it has. And for my mother and father, for all my family members and all my friends, be happy, be healthy, be free from harm, be on the path that leads to great peace, comfort, and freedom from suffering. May those persons I find difficult, persons that annoy me, that arouse hostility in me, in this moment, let it go. Take another deep breath. May these persons be happy, healthy, free from harm, living lives in this moment, peace and contentment and joy. And to all living beings throughout the universe, not just on Earth, but throughout the entire universe, all humans and non-humans, may you be the recipient of our collective radiance of goodwill and compassion. May all living beings be happy, healthy, free from harm, enjoying lives of safety, comfort, and peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Anne, Mark and Anne, Kathy, Joan, and I don't know who else was here. Ginny, Rachel, Joan, Debbie. I don't know. Rose was probably here. Chris and Becky. Um, you know, Kathy, of course, is always here for me. She's my ace and all, boy. All right. Yeah, Chris says good night to all. And I say good night to you all also. Namaste. The perfection in me acknowledges the perfection in you. Peace out.